StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is, the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to pull people up to your level. Before we get into this, I remind you all of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation message is guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you had to do to receive those would be part of my texting community. It is free to join, so just send a text to the number 305-384-6894. Just to remind you all that we're not sending those right now as of this recording, but when we do start sending them again, everybody who's already in my text community, you'll already be set, and you'll be getting them as soon as we start sending them again, because it's going to happen quickly. When I tell you it's happening, it's already happening by the time you hear it. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's where I'll do all my coaching. If you'd like to have me as your direct coach, get access to all of our courses, all of our trainings, and me as your direct coach, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is down below in the description to this video and this video or episode audio, if you are listening to this on audio. And there you can see everything about our program. You can see what courses and trainings you get access to. You see how much access you can get to me, and you can take your next step there. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That out the way, let's pick up where we need to pick up at the beginning, which is the topic of how to pull people up to your level. This episode is for those of you who are leaders, those of you who are working with other people whose levels you would like to bring up and help them perform at a higher level. In other words, you have people around you, you want to make them better, which will in turn help you and help the group, because all of you are there together. So if they start playing at a higher level, that can only help you. So there is a formula for bringing people up to your level. And today we're going to talk about some pieces of that formula. This is not a completely conclusive list, but this is a really good start of where you need to be if you're going to pull people up to your level. Point number one, today's topic, once again, is how to pull people up to your level. Number one, be on a level at which people can and need to be pulled up. In other words, you need to be at a level at which when other people are looking at it, they're looking aspirationally from where they are to where you are. So if you're going to pull people up to your level, you need to be at a level that they need to be pulled up in order to get there. In other words, they have to go higher than where they are in order to get to where you're at. Whether they get pulled up, they drag themselves up, they work themselves up, whatever, you have to be up there in order to pull people up. All right, so don't say you're pulling people up to your level and they're already above you. All right, that's not possible. You'll be pulling them down. So you can't pull people in. You can't pull people up if you are average. If they're average too, then you're all on the same level. So in other words, the way that you are currently performing, okay, even if you're just performing for yourself and by yourself, it needs to be at a level that is aspirational to the people whom you wish to help. All right, so you got to be helping people who need to get to where you are, not people who are already there or people who have already passed it. If people do not see you as doing something or having achieved something or in the process of achieving something that they want to do or get to or obtain, then you can't pull them up because they're not looking to get to where you're at. You're not at a place where they want to be. So the starting point of pulling other people up is that you have to be at a level that they want to get to already. Okay. So ask yourself some questions about the standards that you've set for yourself, about the way that you are currently performing, and if you are living up to those levels, because that's the way you pull someone up. I know that in a court of law, at least in the United States, a subject matter expert by legal definition is a person who knows more than anybody else in the room. So, for example, if you're on an airplane and someone's having a medical emergency and the flight attendants ask, hey, is there a doctor on the plane? You may be a chiropractor, it's probably not a person who can fix whatever medical emergency is happening with the person. But if you're the closest thing on the plane, then you are the subject matter expert on that plane. So you are the expert right there in the room. And it's also about the levels of people that you're working with. When I first started putting out my training programs, self-training programs for basketball players, I was a professional player playing overseas who had played, as my background, Division III college basketball. So was I objectively, by any measure, the best basketball player in the world? No. At that time, you had LeBron James was out there, Kobe Bryant was out there, and a bunch of other players who probably, if you just put their accomplishments and career next to mine, most people, including myself, will say that they were better. But people were still buying my programs. Why is this? Because I was talking to an audience of people whom, even though I wasn't Kobe Bryant, my level of accomplishment was still higher than the level of the people who I was serving. All right. So you need to be a subject matter expert to the people who you want to serve. You don't have to be better than everybody in the world. You just got to be better than the people you're working with. In the movie Catch Me If You Can, which had Leonardo DiCaprio playing this guy named Frank Abagnale. Any of you who saw the movie may remember this part. This guy was he was a professional impersonator. He was just going around doing all types of uh, long form impersonations of other people, and it got him into some legal trouble because he was doing this stuff like legal stuff. I'm not talking like a comedian on stage. And he finally got arrested. And when the authorities caught up to him, they were looking at all the things that he had done. He had done all types of impersonations. And at one point, he had impersonated a college professor for an entire semester. So not impersonated like he copied a person who existed, but what he did was he pretended to be a person and got away with it. He was just so good at it and so convincing that people actually believed him. So for an entire semester, he pretended to be a college professor, and none of the students ever thought twice about the fact that this guy was actually a professor. So when the authorities asked him, how were you able to pretend or impersonate being a college professor for an entire semester when you don't even know the subject, you didn't study it? How were you able to get away with this and convince the students that you actually knew your stuff? And he said it was very easy. I just read one chapter ahead of the class. So if the class was on chapter 3, I just made sure I read up to chapter 4. So I always knew a little bit more than the people who I was serving. And that's the exact idea that you need to have. You need to just know more than the people who you are serving. You don't have to know more than everybody. You don't have to be the best tennis player in the world to be a tennis. You don't have to be better than Serena Williams to be a tennis instructor. You just got to be better than the players who you're coaching, which don't have to be the number 2, 3, and 4 players in the world. Like Serena might need a coach, but you can coach players who aren't ranked at all because to them, you are still an expert because you know more than they do. Okay, so you just got to find the people who you can serve. It doesn't have to be everybody. If you're going to pull people up, you got to find people you can actually serve. And again, if you're going to pull people up, you got to be living up to a certain standard that actually would help them if they got there. Speaking of such, point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to pull people up to your level. Number 2, set standards for yourself so that you can set them for others. Set standards for yourself so you can set them for others. So in the examples that I gave you there, and I use someone like Frank Abagnale or let's say Serena Williams, or let's say some type of personal trainer or something like that. This doesn't really apply directly to them because they are not trying to do the same thing that you're doing. So if a tennis instructor is trying to train you to be as good as Serena or some other great tennis player, they don't have to be as good at tennis as what they're trying to get you to. They just have to know how to teach it, which is a different thing. But when I say pulling people up to your level, what I mean is when you have people who are on the same team as you and they're doing the same stuff that you're doing, you just want them to do it at a higher level, i.e. closer to where you're at. So I'm not talking about you're instructing them and just coaching. I'm talking about you're actually out there doing it too. You're in the trenches with them. So you got to set standards for yourself so that you can set them for others. Standards matter a lot, yet very few people use standards. We talk about standards a lot here at Work on Your Game because standards are basically what set the tone for the structure that you put in place, which leads to the discipline, confidence, and performance. The reason why the standards matter so much is because they are hard to live up to. It's hard to live up to a standard because the standard does not tolerate exceptions. It doesn't care that you're tired or that you don't feel like it, or this is just an off day for you, or it's raining outside, or it's cold outside, or your knee hurts, or you have a headache. And when you have a standard, you have to live up to it consistently because that's what a standard means. You can't just not live up to a standard and it just be okay. It's like if you work in a let's say you work in a company like Amazon, and any of you has never read anything about how Amazon's warehouses work, in which they currently have humans working. And I say currently because eventually they're going to replace all those humans with robots. That's happening within the next, probably before 2030. There'll be no humans working in Amazon warehouses. They will be replaced. But for now, they have humans. And the way that the system works in Amazon warehouses, and again, you should read the article so you can really see this for yourself. But what they say is that human beings are basically timed for how quickly they are able to, when they're given, or here's an order. Somebody in Oregon ordered a book and they ordered some masking tape. You got to go get the stuff, find it, put it in the envelope, and then put it along the conveyor belt so it can go to the next step in the process, whatever it happens to be. And Amazon's internal system inside the warehouse is clocking you, each individual person. They know each order that you were assigned to fulfill, how long it takes you to go get the stuff off the shelf, put it in the envelope, push it along to the next step and mark that you did it. It's clocking you and timing you. And if you are too slow and you're not doing it fast enough, the system automatically fires you from the job. Like you literally get fired by a computer. Like you don't get fired by a person. You get fired by a computer. And then, and when I read the article, I don't remember which publication published the articles. I would tell you to go look for it if I remembered it. But and people would tell these stories, and they were talking about the warehouse specifically in New York City, and they would get fired by the computer, and then like 2 weeks later, they would apply again and get hired, as if they never got fired the last time. And this is the way that the Amazon systems work. So they automated pretty much everything. You only have to deal with a human, and you're getting hired and fired. And this is why I'm so sure that they're going to replace all of that with computers, so that they don't have to deal with this, and they don't have to deal with bad press like that article, which didn't make their system look too humane, let's say, for lack of a better term. The point being, Amazon had a standard for how you need to deliver and how you need to fulfill every task that you're given. And the way that it was set up, and I saw this, somebody posted this on X a few weeks ago. Again, I don't remember exactly who it was, but I responded to it because it was kind of funny in a cynical type of way. But it was talking about how Amazon had faced some critiques, and I believe they had gotten a fine from some state, whatever state they were operating in. Amazon operates everywhere, but they had a warehouse in some states, and the way that their system was set up was that the employees were basically being slave driven by the system. Like you had to be really, really fast and really, really efficient in fulfilling the orders while you were at work, to the point that you would kind of lose points by the way the system was rating you. You would lose points if you were to, let's say, take a bathroom break or take a cigarette break, or you were to go eat lunch, or talk to your coworker for 5 minutes, because you would get behind in the system and you would never catch up. So the system, the computer, was basically slave driving the human beings. And I made a funny comment about it, or at least a comment that I thought was funny. Maybe not all of you will think it's funny if you ever worked in one of these warehouses, but it was like the system was slave driving these people to the point that they couldn't even go to the bathroom or they couldn't eat lunch. And again, it was funny when I read it, and it was funny when I left the comment that I left. I don't remember exactly what I said. The point, I'm bringing all that up to say this, that Amazon's system sets standards for performance. All right, so all of you who might be listening to me kind of making light of that and thinking that it's not funny, all right, let me ask you a question. Are you okay with 4-day shipping instead of 2-day shipping from Amazon? You see, if they cut this out, because one of two things is going to happen. All right, actually 3 things. There are 3 things that can happen here. Any of you who orders from Amazon, since I'm on this subject. One is Amazon can keep doing what they're doing. They can keep slave driving human beings and firing them from the computer and hiring them back a month later, right, as they've been done. They can keep doing that and slave driving people, and people can keep bitching about it, and it'll keep going as it is, but you'll keep getting your packages in 1 or 2 days. All right, that's option A, okay? Here's option B. Option B is that they can have more humane practices. They can lower the standards, so where people can be a little bit slower. They can go to the bathroom and they can eat lunch, whereas they can't do that now. They got to piss on themselves and go hungry. All right, and I'm being tongue in cheek here, but they can do that, lower the standards. But now instead of 1 or 2 day shipping, now you got to wait for 3 or 4 day shipping. All right, that's the second option. That's option B. All right, and option C is, and here's what's actually going to happen, by the way. So this is not really an option, so I'm kind of being tongue in cheek here. Here's option C, and this is what's going to occur. Amazon is already developing right now computers and computer chips that will do all of this shit to replace human beings, and there will be no humans working in any Amazon factory anywhere, and you'll be getting your packages in like 1 or 2 hours, let alone 1 or 2 days. That's going to happen. And again, the topic here today is not Amazon, but since I'm talking about it, I just wanted to go on that tangent and make sure y'all understand it. As we continue on what I'm saying here when it comes to standards, because Amazon has a standard for delivering as quickly as possible. And what's the quickest way to deliver as quickly as possible is to remove any possible bottlenecks to their process. You know what a big bottleneck is to a standard is humans. Humans are a big bottleneck because humans are variable. You never know what a human being is going to do. All right, somebody can have a long day, somebody can be tired, somebody can have a headache, someone can have their knee hurt so they can't walk that fast throughout the factory. There could be all kinds of things that happen that cause a human being to be more slow than they need to be. But guess what? Computers don't have that problem. Our computers don't get tired. Computers don't go on vacation. So you can set standards, and if the computer is responsible for the standard, guarantee that standard will be hit every single time unless a human interferes in the process. That's why I'm 100% sure of what Amazon is going to do, because humans are a bottleneck and they're getting in the damn way, and they got to be paid, and they complain, and they get on social media and bitch about their jobs. Guess what? Who never does that? Computers. Right? And that's why computers are going to replace a whole bunch of you working the jobs that you've been complaining about anything. Trust me, you won't have much to complain about soon because you won't have a job. So that's why I suggest you skill up and go to work on your game university. I'll help you with that. Anyway, continue on what I'm saying here. It's inevitable that when you are living up to a standard that you will run into what we call the third day. That's a situation when things are not working the way that you would like them to. You don't feel like doing what you're supposed to do. But since you set the standard, you still have to do it. All right, that's called the third day. And I have a book on the third day. You can get that book for free, but on thirddaybook.com, by the way. So at that point, when you hit this wall, this is when you find out if your standard is really a standard. Because if it's really a standard, it doesn't matter that you don't feel like it, you still have to do it. And if you don't do it, then it's not a standard, it's a suggestion. And that's okay. If you don't want to have standards, that's fine. Just understand that standards lead to performance and results, whereas suggestions lead to maybes. That's what a suggestion is. A suggestion is like a maybe. Maybe I'll do it, maybe not. Maybe you'll be successful, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll reach your goals, maybe not. If you have a standard, it's a definite. A suggestion is not a definite, it's a possible, it's a question mark. So when you set standards and continually live up to them, even when it is challenging and difficult, that's when you build the discipline, the mental toughness, the internal fortitude, and the cachet to the point that your words have conviction when you hold other people to standards. See, if you're holding yourself to standards, then people will listen to you when you hold them to standards because they can see that you're doing it. And they will believe you because you believe you. Also, if they're around you and they see you doing it, then it's obvious. Right? They only have to see you doing it though. If they see you living up to your standards, even when they don't feel like it, that's even better because they will have no pushback when you hold them to the standard because they see you actively doing the stuff that you're talking about. But even if they don't see you doing it, let's say they never saw you doing the thing that you're telling them to do, but you know that you are doing it, the way that you communicate it, remember, most communication, folks, is nonverbal. The way that you communicate it, the energy behind your words makes it believable because they can feel, even if they can't consciously explain, they can subconsciously feel that you are true to what you are saying because you are living up to it. There's weight behind your words. It's an interesting thing. Now you think about it, maybe next time you're in a conversation with someone who you believe is doing what they're talking about, or next time you're the one doing what you're talking about, but nobody saw you do it, but you're talking about it to somebody else, they can tell when you believe it. And people will also tell when you don't believe it. All right, confidence is palpable. People can feel confidence. We can also feel lack of confidence. Now they say animals can smell fear. Okay, human beings are part animal. All right, we can smell when someone doesn't believe themselves, even though they're saying something, and we can also feel when they do believe it, even when they're saying nothing. Think about that. People will understand that you mean something when you're thorough behind it, and they will believe you when you're saying it if you are continually living up to what you are, again, telling yourself and others to do. Point number 3, today's topic, once again, is how to pull people up to your level. Number 3, make sure that people are doing better with you than they would be doing without you. This is when you got to provide the substance. This is the tangible part of it. So I told you the mindset parts of it, the intangibles in points number 1 and 2. Here's the tangible part. If you're going to pull people up to your level, you better make sure that getting up to that level actually does something for them that they can say, okay, I'm at this level and it was hard to get to this level. And you, whatever your name is, pulled me up to this level. And I'm so glad that it happened because look at these results that I got. Look at this outcome. I'm going to make sure they get a result. Make sure that people are doing better with you than they would do without you. All right. Well, all of this that we're saying, if you're going to hold people to a standard and push them to perform in ways that they otherwise would not have pushed themselves, make sure that it's worth it for them, that they can see that they got something that they want out of it. That's your job. That's your responsibility. Okay. They got more out of it through you than they would have got if they had done anything other than working with you. There needs to be proven results that show that following you actually works. And works means they got something that they wanted. And it's obvious, it's clear. They see it, you see it, anybody else can see it. Biggest concern any human has when they decide to listen to or follow another human is a concern that they may be listening to or following a person who won't help them get what they want. All right, maybe this won't work. That's the biggest challenge anybody has when they think about listening to another person. And this could be doing something as simple as like you're listening to the show right now. All right, you have invested, I'm about 20 minutes into the recording here. You've invested 20 minutes into this. So the risk that you take every time you turn on one of my episodes is that, all right, Dre might be saying some bullshit that is not useful, and I used up 20 minutes and didn't get anything out of it. That's the risk that you take every time you turn this episode on. So I got to make sure that if you're going to give me your time, I'm going to give you something useful. All right, that's my responsibility. If I'm saying I got this thing and I'm going to give you something for 20 to 30 minutes a day that's going to help you get better, then I got to make sure I deliver. All right, that's my job. And if you ask people for an investment, you better make sure they get a return. That is your job. Whatever investment, time, money, attention, energy, focus, any one of them. Biggest concern people have is that your thing might not work. And it's not really that your thing doesn't work. Your thing may be great, is that they might not follow it, and then because they don't work and they don't get the result. But still, if they're buying in with you, they're going to put that on you. So that's the penalty of being the leader. That they're still going to put it on you, even though it's really about them more than it's about you. It's still on you, if you get what I'm saying. They are wondering if their decision might be a bad idea. So your job as a leader is to show them that their decision is a good idea in the form of a positive outcome. Because guess what? Anyone who's over the age of 25 has made decisions where they invested in something or someone and did not get a good result. It ended up being a sunk cost. So now they're worried that the next thing they do is going to be a sunk cost. Okay, so I invested in this person and ended up not working. I signed up for this course, it was garbage. I hired this coach and he was a bum. I went to this conference and it was useless. Okay, so now the next course, the next coach, the next conference, I don't want to make the same mistake again. So now they're worried. All right, now they're concerned. You understand? And you are responsible for that, even though you're not responsible for it. It's not your fault that the last coach was a bum, but since you're a coach, they're comparing you to them. And now you got to sweep those demons out of their brain in order to get them to commit to what you want them to do, even though you had nothing to do with that other person. So your job as a leader is to show them they made a good decision by getting them a positive outcome. Now, again, this can be a small thing that happens quickly, depending on what it is. And also be bigger things that happen over time, depending on what it is. Depending on how much commitment you have from a person, you may need to get them a smaller win quickly, or you may have more time to kind of build up to what they want. But either way, you got to get them a result. Either way, they need to say themselves that they got something positive out of whatever it is that you're doing. So make sure whatever you're promising, you deliver on. Let's recap today's class, which is how to pull people up to your level. This is for those of you who are leaders. When you're working with people and you want to bring them up to where you are at, these are some of the pieces of the formula. Number one, be on a level at which people need to be pulled up. They actually need to get from where they are to where you are. In other words, you need to represent something that they want. Number two, set standards for yourself so that you can set them for others. If you're not living up to your own standards, then you can't set standards for anybody else. And if you're not doing that, then first of all, they can see that you're not doing it. They won't listen to you. Like a kid who sees their parent is not doing a certain thing, then the parent tries to tell the kid to do it. The kid's not really listening. They may obey, but they're not really listening. And the other thing is, if they can't see you, but you are living up to it, they can feel that in your words. Remember, most communication is nonverbal. People can feel when you believe yourself, and they can feel when you don't. Number three, make sure that people are doing better with you than they would do without you. All right, if you're going to hold people to a standard, make sure they're actually getting a result. If you saw the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary a couple of years ago about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, one of the big points of that whole story was that Michael Jordan admitted that he was kind of an asshole and a jerk with his teammates, and he would push them and prod them to perform at levels that they otherwise never would have performed at. But at the same time, Michael went on to say, well, you see the result, right? You saw all the championships we won. You saw everybody got paid. Everybody has a well-known name. Here we are 20 years later, and everybody still knows these guys' names, even though they weren't as good as me. Michael didn't say any of this. This is me just adding to this. None of those guys were as good as Michael Jordan, but we still know most of their names because they were connected to Michael Jordan. There's four guys who were really good. Phil Jackson, the coach, Michael himself, Dennis Rodman, and Scottie Pippen. The rest of those guys were forgettable players. All right, most players who played back in the late 90s in the NBA, most of you don't know their names, but you know a lot of names of the Chicago Bulls players. Why is that? Because Michael Jordan pulled them up to a level that they never would have gotten to on their own. And all of them, you saw the documentary, they all admitted it. Not one of them lied and said that wasn't the case. They all admitted it. And that's what you need to do if you're going to pull people up to your level. All that being said, folks, text me so you're in my community. Numbers down below in the description. Also, Work on Your Game University. You want to get pulled up to a level where you are getting a result, where your name will be remembered 20, 30, 40 years from now, 20, 30, 40 years from after you stop doing the thing that you're doing. Go to Work on Your Game University and let's get you where you need to be. Let's get clear on where it is. Let's get clear on why and what. Then let's make a plan and let's get to it and let's execute. I will help you. I will be right there with you as your coach. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all